Dear friends, dear visitors, very happy to welcome you. This panel session is dedicated to some hot specifics. We're glad that you're interested. We really expected just 3 or 6 people, joking, and we thought it's going to be one-on-one, but fortunately we've got a big turnout in the audience. We're going to talk about skills, about technologies affecting the needs to change of the education system and the approaches of companies and universities. I work at Sber. Also, my second role, which I've been in a long time, I'm a director of financial MC programs in Moscow. So I'm one of your most attentive audiences. I'm going to listen hard to what you say, and I'm going to get some personal development tips also. Now, many things are ongoing with technologies. You know well that these changes have constant nature, and we shouldn't hope that small or large universities are catching up. They really find the journey stressful. However, the question is, how do companies work with this challenge when your employees coming to work don't always know the company's mission, the technologies they're using at the time, and new methods have to be developed to aid employees to best merge with the team using existing opportunities. That's what we're going to discuss today from various viewpoints, from the viewpoint of educational system, HR, and business standpoint. Now, I'd like to give you the procedure. We're going to hear 5 speakers, 5 minutes each. Then we'll move on to some separate topics, which we'll endeavor to discuss widely in a live format. Those speakers that would like to speak out will have the opportunity to do so. Now, if I may begin with Ruslan. Ruslan Nikolaevich Vesterovskiy, the deputy head of Bank of Russia. Now, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Oleg. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Oleg, prior to Finnopolis, must have joined Sber just to make it a comprehensive journey. Yes, thank you so much, dear colleagues. The second day is kicking off with a human capital subject. We've been given the plenary audience hall, so this is so important, and it shows the highlighted growing importance of the subject. Thank you for joining the panel. I hope it will be interesting and fruitful, also informative for everyone. Certainly, we're all feeling the changes ongoing. 2.5 years of pandemic have been quite intensive for everyone. Many of us reshuffled their organizations, functions, HR, distant work. Now we're also in the new reality. Living in new reality, many HR departments in the recent months were tackling the issues of partial mobilization, also learning, safeguarding their staff, trying to find the right balance is also a new challenge facing us. Certainly must be noted. And we need to take a strategic view into the future. Where do we like to go? We are now shaping the major areas of financial market to 2030. Bank of Russia, jointly with the Ministry of Finance and other government bodies, is actively discussing this subject. Extensive block is dedicated to HR, preparing and training experts for the financial market, the investments about to be done, the qualifications we require in the future. It's quite a sufficient planning horizon. A lot could be done in terms of educational training programs and standards. It's quite a dynamic time, very fluid situation with the business demands changing quickly, fluidly, and education sector always has to respond fast. Doesn't always happen that way, but at least there is a will to do so. Right now, major universities are also holding ongoing discussions. People say, why do we need to focus on business demands so much? But I think it's a must, because feedback is so important in developing products and services required in the future. One of the cases in point is the cybersecurity. The current sanctions climate has highlighted the deeper underlying problems, a deep shortage of such experts across the system, not just the banking and financial sectors, but also other corporate players, organizations, and educational standards have to be radically reshuffled to provide for more quality experts. Bank of Russia, in partnership with many universities and companies, is creating these solutions for cybersecurity products based on Fintech Hub at Sirius project. We've got our own cybersecurity course. Back in 2021, it received a UN award for this cybersecurity course, and it is worth a lot. Now, I'm confident that this first panel, the key word is collaboration. That was the key word for yesterday. And we certainly need to look for partnerships with many players, practical players, theorists, share problems, share know-how. So, as you are aware, yesterday we saw a fresh piece of research published. I shared it with my colleagues in the night. It was by Gartner agency. It's called Priorities of HR Leaders for 2023. And I'd like to see how this correlates with our goals. Only 5 priorities: leadership, management, efficiency, performance management. And of course, certainly for many companies today, the model of new leaders is how the employers, how the managers interact with staff, drastically changing landscape. And Bank of Russia have prepared leadership models where you have to correctly manage resources across various levels, organizational, team, personal, through creating needed tools and ambience despite the crisis times. Efficiency, performance, well, many are optimizing right now, although strategic view is certainly desirable in case of negative outcomes. Now, organizational design and change management is always coming to the forefront, but certainly we need not overlook other organizational processes. Now, on to recruitment. It's also among the top priorities, also in creating strong teams. Many relocated into the regions, not only Russia and outside Russia. So we need to look into resource base. We are in tough competition for key resources. Any organization is facing the same hurdles, and us as a Bank of Russia, we're certainly competing for talents with other organizations, also investing into talents, trying to be an employer of choice. We've got a new HR strategy for the next 3 years, already done 3 subjects we are focusing on as part of the strategy. There is a word, I don't really like it, but we called it human-centric. We need to review the employee experience, their development journey, 3 clicks to the process to be convenient for the manager. People are giving me hand signals that my time is out, and I'll add some comments later. Thank you so much. I hope you can see these signs signaling us time. Now, procedure is also important. And next is Olga Dergunova, VP of VTB Bank, also a director of the High School of Management, St. Petersburg University. Olga, could you please give us your vision? Because for you, the connection between business and education is mostly very relevant since you've had to change educational processes in the past. Well, let me begin with a short quiz. Could you please raise your hands, those in the audience, that throughout your student lives, are working using your current qualification? This goes to highlight the question, who is being graduated by universities. Us as employers looking at potential candidates, we certainly want them to have experience or on the other hand, do we need to approach universities and say we don't want handy workers, we need some qualified staff? So where do we find this balance where students continue learning, achieve systemic knowledge, and programming can be left for different processes and different education systems? I've been watching this debate regarding this proportion since the end of 20th century. In the 90s, we also used to argue whether it's worth tackling. Now it's almost mid-21st century, and we are still looking for that balancing point. It's a balancing act. Look, I'm not HR, I am a business person. And at VTB Bank, when we build relationships with tertiary institutions, universities, we are looking for value-added business where people go to universities and say exactly what they want. Many of you have faced a situation where you tell universities, let's make a specialized faculty. We know what to teach your students. We were the same. We used to be the same until we began interacting in a more systemic way. And using the case in point of St. Petersburg School of Management of St. Petersburg National University, we became part of the process, and we began being part of creating the content of these educational programs, not only the topics we're interested in, but the whole 4-year educational track running across these crazy competences that HR love talking about, these crazy standards. And once you are immersed into that systemic process, you begin realizing how little time students have for actual work. If you want to raise a systemic, comprehensive expert that we want to hire into the workplaces, and if you go to your HR department and ask them about the modern skills required, first reply you'll hear is systemic approach. Persons need to have oversight. Certainly, they need to have soft skills. That's very important. Also, points are very important. The points-based system and experience and internships are no least important along that context. And the job of HR department and educational planning department is to combine all of these important skills and areas into the educational track. So we've learned to force universities to compromise with us along the desired track. Us as business, we try to pressure universities into structuring the training courses, the education trajectory that we want to have. And at some point in time, we caught ourselves thinking this is wrong, because pushing and providing pressure with our current agenda and our de jure agenda, especially in technological qualifications, is fast changing. We want students today to learn Agile. However, we don't have the time to teach them the basics of project management. And that's why in the third, fourth year, you begin giving them Agile. However, and do internships, but before Agile, you waste 4 hours just to teach them about deadlines. And then the question arises, this borderline between systemic knowledge that shouldn't be overlooked by the employer. The first 2 BC years, remember this 2+2 BC system. The first 2 years is dedicated to providing the foundation, the base layer that students must have.
And by the 4th year, we start looking at the following, what we would like to enrich our students with, and we realize that when you hire that student, he's short of experience, cannot charge him with some serious task, and hence you have a very good toolkit that we as the business and the high school institutions are capable of using hackathons and the whole arsenal and stockpile of tools. And then following the case of VTB Bank, let me tell you how we're using that. Give me just 2 minutes. Along with Bank of Russia, we launched an educational case for all the academia dedicated to the development of a mere payment system, which shows the holistic change and the reaction of the regulator to the decision-making and the digital environment in which the business lives. And we rendered that to the academia so that through discussion and through looking at how the system changes, a student could understand what fintech solutions are needed. I'm speaking about fintech solutions. Second thing we changed the format of internships. Now we are taking the students to the real streams. They would be writing the real codes, but we leave them the right to make a mistake, to make an error. And actually, it would be a short-term labor agreement, and the student would be responsible for the final outcome. But we realized that, for instance, the student would take a vacation during the exams period, and he would get back to us once the exams are over. Such short-term internships with the real requirements to would-be employees, but releasing time for the students to achieve their goals and making errors and mistakes prior to be hired, that's very good, and our funnel is about 75 to 85%. Acting through such a conversion would reach the result that we need as an employer. The takeaway is that the academia will never catch up with us. Secondly, you don't have to take the students of the first and the second year. You have to wait until they reach the third or the fourth year before you offer internships. And number three, the internships have to be long-term with specific requirements, and that the students would realize that they have to be result-driven with certain grades, but at the same time we have to give time to them to achieve their educational goals. And number four, we have to systematize knowledge and tell them what we're doing as a business or what the regulator is doing in the financial area, where the fintech solutions would be needed, acting through the FinCase method that could be used later on. Well, if the universities fail to do that in general, and the companies still have to do that, I mean, upskilling or reskilling, or in Russian it would be just retraining of the employees. What do? Marat, Ismagulov, HR director from Alfa-Bank. Tell us more about that. Thank you, guys. Good morning, dear colleagues. First, as far as we started addressing the challenges, let me speak about academia. I was listening to Olga with lots of interest. I think that the situation is simpler, but simple things are hard to be implemented. The whole system of higher education, and in the global scale, because I used to live and study in many countries such as the UK, Russia and the United States, we have one chronic disease lagging behind the business. And some academia have a big gap, but some schools manage to narrow that gap, doing that very efficiently. And for instance, I do think that the case of the High School of Economics is very illustrative, when this gap could be closed very effectively. There are two dimensions where we can make a rapprochement between business and education. First of all, let me refer to the HSE. What they do. They would invite a big deal of professional, market-minded people who would be reading the real business things, lectures. They are not just used-to-be practitioners who would be writing some codes 20 years ago, and now they are sharing their sacred knowledge. These are just regular guys who have a day job and they have an evening job. And they are ready to share their experience with the students. The second case, the second dimension, in terms of narrowing that gap, means that either business may keep on complaining that they have to impose the agenda. Agenda is a poor word. Well, agenda, that's the right word. And again, Olga, what you have said, that really, very often, business will stick to a position that that they would tell the academia what the chair to set up, what department to set up. But our approach is a little bit different. We are partnering lots of academia, and we would say, what can we do to help you? That's the change in our stance. Not that we're going to explain what you have to do, but rather we are asking what we can be helpful with. And we have lots of very interesting programs. Let me list some of them. For instance, along with the Financial and Physics and Technologies University, we have the 3D science chairs. So it's not that we tell them to set up that chair, but they approach us and they said, we'd like to set up such a chair. And they told us that we are good in that, so let us partner. And we launched that, and it is a success. The same is true for serious projects. Colleagues approached us and said, guys, we'd like to make an applied financial mathematics chair, and they approached Sberbank, the incumbent ones and the other ones, and they suggested, let us partner. And we're reading a big deal of lectures of a specialized nature, for instance. Along with HSE, we're going to deliver a lecture on product management, and we're very much interested in that because we are keen to look at the students, and we were told to do so. So instead of imposing our agenda, I think that the academia have to ask what we can be helpful. And this is a strife between the academic highbrowishness and the stringent position of the business. I think is not good, and we have to look for a compromise, meet each other halfway. Let me show you. Are there many people who are working with the physics and technical academia? How many product science chairs you have there at that university? There is a data science from Alfa-Bank, there is a data science chair from VTB, data science offered by Tinkoff, data science from Yandex. How many data sciences we have in the world? That's too few, that's too few. Certainly that's too few, but probably we have to change something. Not each of us has to teach, to instruct data science. The excellence of the academic environment lies in systematizing things. They're very good at that, and let me support that. Subscribe to what you said. We have to approach academia. The universities, and you are interacting in most cases with academia that you have graduated from your alma maters, and actually there might be different courses in the syllabus, and it means that your chairs have to be part and parcel of the overall university requirements. And we come to the universities not as Tinkoff or an Alfa-Bank or a Sberbank, but as practitioners in data science, and we have to be part of the programs launched by the university. I can only associate myself with what you have said. This is a two-way street. When you speak about the academic environment, I completely agree with you that the academia have to provide the fundamental knowledge. But there is actually a very tiny borderline between the academic highbrowishness and business imposition. We have to look for a compromise. We have to be more flexible. Well, I think that you are very good at finding compromises, judging by what you are saying. Now, saying that, I would like to pass the floor to the representative of Tinkoff Bank. They were just mentioned, so let's pass the buck to Konstantin Markelov, Vice President and Business Technologies Director, a person behind Eco Business School. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We're not a Fintech school. And it happens so that I'm also an HR director in Tinkoff. Let me discuss HR, proceeding from what Gartner wrote. The latest discussion which took place between Marat and Olga. I actually understand the position of both of the speakers. Why? Because I used to set up a school and chairs, and as a business spokesman, I know who I need and who we have to train, and why 15 data science courses were offered. Well, Marat's position is very close to my heart. He said, tell us what you need, what you can help us with. And once you ask this question, the academia would change their position very fast and would get out of a very conventional format and start thinking where synergy is, where a potential ecosystem can be set up between the universities and business. And these synergies may be generated only in such a format. Actually, it changes just overnight, in a blink of an eye. And let me refer to the High School of Economics and FEKI-N chair and its dean, Nikolai Vladimirovich. Really, it is for a year already that we are interviewing 1,000 graduates of the top universities, and you take 1,000 students who are graduates, and the Physics and Technologies University is really a great university, but the top-notch level is here today. But this is just like the case of good wines, different locations and different years. Actually, once these wines mature, they become better. The same is true of the High School of Economics. What ideas I may share? What we have to instruct? We overlook a lot of things, so the academia have to offer fundamental knowledge, and systemic business is not possible without that, and posh products are not possible without that. And we have super talents. But nevertheless, you have to have that base, proceeding from which you learn to learn. Let me make a step back. Why the fundamental knowledge is important? That the person learns to learn, to perceive lots of information and to take decisions based on that. And learning to learn, this starts from grade 9. Let me rephrase that. Just like drilling. And once actually you are not capable of drilling, you will never prevail. Look at the people who somehow win the Olympiads. They are very good at drilling, not because they have to, but because they want to. And when you enjoy drilling, that's just great. And the universities have to train that skill. And once the universities allow cheating or buying some results, this is not what we want. And the whole of your 5-year course should look like that. You cannot play hooky, but you have to drill, keep on drilling. What we are not training well, what we are not instructing well. 6 months of mixed hybrid mode of training is over, and there are some psychological moments which are being overlooked. So, for instance, a person went abroad and he believes that, well, actually, I'm working via Zoom and held a lot of meetings online, and I'm doing that, and usually you do that for 3 months only, and if 3 months after a person doesn't understand that he loses the involvement, then he's the lost guy. And, well, actually, working from home is good, but only for a short period of time and only on some positions. If you're working on that position for more than 3 months, it means that you're not pushing the business forward. Many people overlook that. The second thing we have to instruct, and something that I believe that's our failure, that is a statism notion, or resistance or resilience, endurance, the very first crisis of the young people and Many young people do not know what the crisis would be over with, and people tend to panic. And if we train them to overcome that bit before, that is more important, and we'll not see such a brain drain as today. And for instance, people may get an offer for extend and go abroad.
And moreover, right now, there's a real hunt ongoing. If you are a data scientist from a faculty, well, you must have worked at Tinkoff. You are well known. Many companies, Revolut, Google, and other Tinders, they want this specific guy or girl. So these lines in your resume are a red line, a red flag for the bull. HR. Speaking of HR, we saw the fresh piece of research from Gartner, and these are HR competences that are going to be demanded as always. But right now, I'd like to note what competences HR need to pursue this agenda. And certainly there are people here very close to this, or at least not far removed. Firstly, what HR is lacking, and the whole world is beginning to realize it in the last 2 or 3 years, there's been lots of changes to HR. It is the business vision. And certainly HR has to be tackled as a strong business line with its own market share, marketing, brands. They know how to compete with their rivals. They know them by sight. They know their P&L, their traction mechanisms. Now, guys, I'm trying to be fast since time is running out. And also, secondly, it's super important. I won't be... Look, people are talking about automation, process automation, systemation. Today, product-based processes are all important. Your client is your employee. You have to focus on them as private clients. You have to measure their engagement. You have to use the right performance matrix, not just hours behind the desk, but useful performance. And the hours clocked is not a reason to go off at people. So this product-based approach in services, for us as Tinkoff, we're very strong with our products and also service. And also inside, we have similar high-class products for our staff. I'd like to recommend it to everyone. And as a fintech company, or as a bank, if you will, we can provide a range of products that our rivals are not able to offer. 5% cashback, redemption of transactions for lunches, super mortgages that are also quite a high value product for our staff. So these are the points that HR overlooks to follow their track. Thank you so much. Now, having heard from HR and business, let's move on to the educational. Now, Vladimir Arzhantsev, the Dean of the Faculty of Computer Sciences of Scientific Research Institute, HSE, High School of Economics. Now, what is your viewpoint at this connection, relationship between business and education? And if your computer sciences department, since everything is quite close to current standards, how timely is it for you? Look, certainly we are working, cooperating with business, and speaking of financial organizations, this is Tinkoff and Otkritia. And colleagues are engaged, the necessary faculties are responding to demand. Now, let me start with different education levels. Speaking of BC, the first and second year is not pro-agile, it's not about agile, it's about mathematical analysis, it's about hardcore mathematical programming skills. And I'd like to ask HR colleagues here, please don't hire first or second year students. We cannot ban them. from this practice. But we've been long seeing that this doesn't end well usually. Usually it's best to leave them to study in the first and second year. Speaking of third and fourth year students, certainly they can do internships, begin working. Speaking of financial technologies, they can build their specialty track. We have our own Tinkoff range of applied courses. It's very important and in demand. It's also possible to structure jointly educational plans. For instance, Bank is doing mining courses, data mining. But if we aren't ready for something, then we provide free format of faculty mini courses. Right now we're running a mini course about the life cycle of Sberbank products. Guys attended at will, and it is quite popular. Now, speaking of BC, not in computer sciences, but HSE at large, our faculty since 2016 have been implementing some interesting projects. My colleagues are all graduates, regardless of our qualifications. We all had PE, we all had English, and HSE thought long and hard and decided that everyone has to be taught the basis of data analysis. And that's how Data Culture Project emerged. All of the HSC faculties are now learning how to learning hardcore programming skills, and this is a very valuable experience because we understand how life, we understand the situation with philologists, psychologists, or financial sciences. When we teach them the basics of data analysis, we understand what type of analysis, what type of skills are necessary, and this project has been quite successful ongoing. Next step is MA programs. Now, certainly in these master's programs, jointly with Sber since 2017, we've had a very successful track. But how do we measure the success of these programs? The number of students is certainly an important indicator. Now, 300 or 400 paid students without scholarships enter the faculty yearly. But in master's programs, we have many budgetary places, many scholarships, and it's rare that these are commercial type of students. And since we organized this master's program with Sberbank, every year 20 to 30 guys pay for their own educational track because that's exactly what they want. It's a rarity. Now, next level is postgraduate. We have postgraduate students that are specializing on financial tech, on fintech, and this is not customary certainly, but the numbers are growing, and there are different subjects, deep learning, generating models, but these are specialty areas. And also further and additional education for adults. This is also important. We are conducting open programs and courses. It's a great case along business and corporate tracks. Now, with years, we have come to realize what banks want. We need to understand the level of development of organizations. We need to understand their work track. Now, if they want mathematics for data analysis, what exactly are they looking for in graduates? Why do they need these skills? Well, the experience of the recent years suggests that we've been actively working with Raiffeisenbank, Sberbank corporate universities, and we begin understanding how it all works. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. And we discussed the story of how we can give people hard skills. And certainly everyone has to understand the language, not just English, but programming. This is Python, since it's much easier, much simpler, more user-friendly. Even I was able to learn Python. Well, not let alone speaking of young, serious-minded young people. But Olga mentioned a very important point. How are we going to try to compile all of these hard skills and soft skills into a joint agenda? How can we combine it? And in a free-flow discussion, I would like to begin with Ruslan. What is your viewpoint of this hard skills versus soft skills combination? People entering fintech, how do they realize that soft skills can be a basis of future career growth, not current employment, but along down the track? Thank you for your question. Certainly, it's philosophical in terms of balance, hard, soft, and also digital skills. I'd like to know the third segment. The higher is your position in an organization when you build your career, soft skills, the more important soft skills become. But if you don't understand the point, the content of hard skills, it's unlikely you will reach this high plane. So it's also very important to dedicate your whole life to learning. Certainly, it runs along with red line through the whole case history. Certainly, lots new is emerging. Corporate universities are tackling it. And I'd like to give you a few cases and points. Some products we never used to have even a month back, but now have been launched. For instance, Chinese language courses. Last year, we have launched a huge course. And even a while back, we couldn't imagine that this product is going to be part of our solutions. Another case, sanction risks program. How do we work and live with sanction risks? 2,000 participants only in that program. So HR and corporate education system have to fluidly respond to the new realities and create products and services which will enable organizations to achieve their set goals. And it's not just a matter of will. It's very important for business. Dedicated departments are finding it crucial and urgent, and not just Chinese, culture, business etiquette, interaction are all important. Fast integrated solutions are the way of the future. So the speed is of essence. The story can run a long time, a year or two, but nobody wants that. We need to be fast, find partners immediately, and certainly we have to get feedback from our internal partners, from our customers. So this fast feedback is so important, and integration of conclusions into our work agenda. So organizations need to find a balance between strategic planning a number of years ahead. They need to understand who exactly are they looking for. When I was working in oil and gas, colleagues were complaining they don't have anyone for downstream operations. And I told them, you need to focus on this, you should have focused on this 5 years ago. It will be hard to find them now. So you need to look ahead, note the competences and skills you're going to need in 5 years' time, and build for it now. Thank you so much. Yes. Dear colleagues, if you'd like to speak out on the same subject, please go ahead. Please allow me. I think that management skills, now there is management knowledge and management skills. Now, knowledge in terms of management is a specialization in tertiary education. In economics, there are dedicated management faculties which explain the causal relationships between management processes. Certainly, these faculties are highly required. HSE, School of Management, is one of the schools that provides this management knowledge. And then we move on to management skills. And this is different. Here enters the additional and further training system. It's important because universal management skills must be at the fingertips of even the youngest employees you are appointing to their first management roles. Because when you explain them the typical mistakes they shouldn't make, you will prevent the problems, the causes for conflicts in the team, which you will have to later eliminate. So as in the same as in the case of computer sciences departments, here these basic management skills, they have to be possessed by every young expert, and it can be tackled through additional and further training programs. Market should provide demand for certain competences and qualifications that should run along with certain positions, and I think the education system is working on this now. Yes, I think any corporate university worth its salt, when you are becoming a manager of even a small 3-man team, you should enjoy the rights to manage. And university universities have to provide at least basic training along that vector. Yes, you're aware of my position. Look, I'm not an advocate of corporate universities as an institution per se. Certainly, working specialties, working qualifications, when you have 50,000 working qualifications and you have to teach them how to cut bolts, certainly corporate university is necessary. But when we live in a market economy, there is a huge educational market, and this competences set is universal. These skill sets have to be available in the market, and business has to help to shape the market for these educational services and not incubate our own in-house faculties and departments. The education system grows out, leaves this vector. As soon as we transfer it in-house, it doesn't work. It's a closed cycle. It's a doomed loop.
As was said at the plenary session, that may affect the banking sector. Marat, over to you. I would like to share a couple of ideas. I totally agree with the two previous speakers that the velocities of critical importance, once you start moving, you are dead. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, and I do not overrate the significance of corporate universities, but let's share a couple of ideas. And let me comment on what has been said. First of all, I have an unofficial slogan for the system of internal education Alfa-Bank. You do not have to drive people crazy. So what I mean, look, every manager wants his team or his people to work a lot and do that productively. And they don't have much time throughout the day work or the working hours. And they have to dedicate some time to the family, to their hobbies, and we have to respect that time. But HR would say, for instance, we have set up a course of corporate training, and people are just burning out. And usually they would be quitting. Our approach in terms of people training is that we do not impose these courses. And secondly, we gave up huge sophisticated programs. We do some alpha tracks, kind of educational programs, to train one or two soft skills or hard skills. And these courses may last from a couple of weeks to 1.5 months, and people are trained to digest the material, and more than 75% of the people run to the very end of the program, and that's good. Konstantin, you spoke about the business-driven functions, and I totally agree with you. HR, just like business, has to study the computer design. Now, the HR structure at Tinkoff Bank, well, I have to do that because of my position, of my duty, and we know the compensation rate of each other. We all exchange that information. That's an open knowledge, but I do like what Tinkoff does. Ever since Konstantin was appointed to that position, so they really made the progress. They're making a funnel to attract people just like they do in business. We attract both the employees and we attract the clients. We use the same stance, but we made one step forward. We not only do some selection, but throughout the whole client's journey, and there is a team that would be offering certain products, offering some remuneration, onboarding, offboarding programs. And the biggest reform is about the following. So the conventional model of HR is that there is a competence center that would be developing some programs, what they believe is important for the people. Then they would offer that to HR and business partners, and so they would be very much surprised, saying that this is not what we need. The clients, the people actually would be even more surprised. They would say what it is. And then HR has a mission to impose eternal and very wise things, at least what they think they are. And we start studying our clients' needs. Then we do prototyping. Then all the decisions are taken proceeding from the data, and MVP would be developed. And we proceed from MVP in order to tell more about the program. That was a very painful reform because such reform implies that certain competence centers have to share their authority, and that's a very painful process for them. But in essence, we managed to ram that home, and I'm glad that we are successful. Konstantin, it resonated in me, what you have said. Well, thank you so much. Let me say a couple of words to protect the interests of the corporate universities. Velocity of the speed is very important when we speak about the educational programs in universities and even extra-vocational education. And this is a case rather than an advertisement. But, for instance, the Russian Economic School, along with Sber, have done that, and they're going to continue doing that. I mean, the asset management program. When you look at these things, the tiny thing is that as a corporate university, you usually from inside out see how it can be explained to the clients better, and you can do that program, develop that program much better than a university made it, because although I have an excellent training experience, but I cannot do that program without an assistance from business, and therefore corporate universities play an excellent role in terms of understanding the specific features needed for the clients. Proceeding from that and proceeding from the changing market, labor market, and what happens to the professors in Russia, we see inflows and outflows. I would like to ask a question to Eva. Do we see any changes in terms of who is teaching, who is instructing, who our students are? Are there any changes in the career paths? I'd like to see more careers in the financial world and Fintech among women, among ladies, so that we would have a panoply of views and these careers would be more affordable. Well, the situation is changing, and sometimes we get together the leading faculties of Russia. Well, actually, it used to be a very small roundtable, then a bigger one, but now we don't have even enough room in order to accommodate everyone. There are dozens and hundreds of very good programs in Russia. The interaction with the industry becomes tighter. If we ask the universities, do they understand how it works in business, this question loses any meaning, because most of our professors would be working full-time in some companies, and I'm just anxious whether this is not too much, whether we have managed to retain the core of our professors, academic professors, and the gender balance is kept as well. Well, the people from the industry could be trained as how to instruct later on once they work full-time somewhere else. Well, in my organization, gender balance is also maintained very well. In essence, at yesterday's panel, a lot was said about import substitution and technological sovereignty. I think that the same things are relevant for the development and instruction. It means that we are now decoupled from lots of tools that we used to have, and therefore we'll have to input substitute lots of things. We have signed an agreement with an association of independent directors offered by Bank of Russia, and before the British Institute of Directors held these programs, and actually we had the first pilot project, and the quality of education was even higher than the one which was offered from the British Council. But we have to do that all together, developing the products which are not accessible for us for a number of reasons. I think this is one of the trends. We have to all together look at what to create, how to create that, and this is especially true for the Fintech. This is a major component for the industry development. Can we call that an import substitution, or we can dub it something else? Because it is at the global standards level. We are not dropping the quality. Well, let me make a coinage, an excellent word, for instance, so brilliant word. Okay, let me share that comment. I know very well the educational systems in a couple of Russian universities and abroad, and our education is better for one reason only. Our students are more motivated and a little bit better educated before they are enrolled. Therefore, good schooling and BA program help them to get enrolled to the MA program. Means that we make them work more. So let them drill more. And in Russia, drill is facilitated very much. So we have almost exhausted our agenda. I ran out of the questions. Probably you have some more comments to share. Can we get a couple of questions from the floor? Well, I was a little bit cynical when I was getting prepared for the discussion. Reskilling, I hear that more than once, and I would like to understand what reskilling is about. My question is to the audience. Who needs reskilling? Raise your hands. Who needs reskilling? I understand it. I kept thinking about reskilling so that you kept drilling. Well, if you do not drill, then he has to be reskilled. In my understanding, we have to differentiate. Well, actually, what top universities are doing, why the graduates offer these universities are so good, and they would be selected prior to the enrollment, and they just cherry-picked, and that question has to be addressed within that differentiation. We are all top professionals. We are not just by accident invited to that discussion. We know what to do. They're big professionals, top-notch professionals, and no one has to be reskilled there. And a real professional, when he or she realizes that the career is over, they would understand that probably I have to study something else, or, okay, probably I'm not so knowledgeable about AI, so let me take this or that program. Or they might be reskilling of big operational functions, and when you are cherry-picking, actually what is left is just a big mass of some conventional things, mundane things, and business rests on that. When we're discussing the reskilling of the operational department, well, that question is not legitimate. Your employee just has to be capable of changing the functions, so that, for instance, he works at the reception, then he would be putting in some data into the system, then he or she would be training AI, where later on would be writing scripts for AI. This is how I see reskilling. I apologize for offering that sudden topic, but just not like to define what we're discussing. Well, that was a very reasonable suggestion. So reskilling makes sense when you speak about the young people, those who are only in their infancy, at start of their careers. It's a major discovery for them to understand that the organization keeps working. Once you graduate at university and starts working, they have to be guided. There have to be some mentors who would be saying this and that, this is what you have to do. Ruslan, I suggest that we get a couple of questions from the floor. Do we have any mics in the floor? Any volunteers? Good afternoon. Dmitry Ponomarenko from the University of Bank of Russia. A question to Ruslan. Well. I thought about that. Well, unfortunately, I'm also from Bank of Russia, so I'm an insider. But my question would be different. The Youth Council, and you kept saying that you cannot hire the students of the first and the second year. As a person who studied a lot, I encountered the situation when the situation is very dire, and the first and second year students, once because they cannot obtain an internship on their profession, they would be working for McDonald's, and for instance, they could get a lot of money. And I know a lot of people who are much smarter, but they would be leaving the job, but some of them would even end their lives in shambles. How do we keep that balance so that at the first and the second grade, or not grade year, they still could train their skills? They want to have something to eat, to put on some clothes, to have some nice lifestyle. They have some colleagues at the universities who are more affluent and they feel well, they live nicely, but what these students have to do?
If you will allow me, there is a standard way of fighting fast food. Look, scholarships with no obligations, guys, are the key. I'm not going to name any names, but that's what happens. Companies offer sufficient scholarships for first, second year courses. Yes, certainly there is a Tinkoff scholarship that should be worth looking at. Thank you very much. Let me reply. These scholarships usually go to people that don't really need it. We often see that. We've all been to university, and out of 30 people in my track, only 2 went to work. You're the customer. Provide the criteria. We'll support it. Well, another question, please. A lady with a mic. You have the floor. Thank you so much. Anastasia Zubchenko, Bank of Russia from Magadan. Look, I have a question. We're speaking of educational tracks and programs. However, in smaller towns, companies need multi-profile experts. And to develop quality products and provide knowledge-based approach, that's a mono-profile expert. So I have a question. In a 5 to 10 year term, do your companies see more multi-profile, multidiscipline, or single monodiscipline experts? Because this will certainly depend on a type of products, particularly in the fintech industry. Well, please allow me to respond. For me, cross-functions are very important. You have to be expert in a number of segments. And we have a strategy of relocations between cross-functional departments. This allows for successful career track and career ladder. It all depends on the organizations and its nature, but I think it could be the right vector. Thank you. I'd like to fill in. I think the question may be slightly incorrect. I think that fundamentals are a very multidiscipline foundation of the whole structure, and fundamentals are vital if they're sufficient and good in nature. And then the question is not mono or multi. I think it's both. Please allow me to respond through university's eyes. Mono-discipline education, people who are looking for that shouldn't enter universities. There is professional tech education. But if you enter university and not polytech, then you select a multidiscipline vector with the possibility to change functions. And this will allow for growing your career track. Dear colleagues, thank you so much. We are almost on time with procedure. Thank you very much for your time. I think it was quite useful. See you back in 5 years. Something like that. Thank you, Oleg.